Good evening and welcome. Hello. It is Friday evening. It is 7 p.m. It is the 28th day of January 2022. It is 60 degrees and cold and windy here in Ventura, California. And thank you for joining me and my one guest, RaRa-Rasputin, as we explore the strange, weird world of 5e related third-party content. Hello, Rasputin. Are you there, sir?
Yes, sir. I sure am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. All right. So I think you know which announcement got me interested in this, but they announced that there's going to be a Dark Souls tabletop role-playing game that's going to be using 5e. And that is what started me down this rabbit hole about the third-party 5e publications and the difference between what a 5e D&D publication is as opposed to this, as opposed to just D&D. Now, when you think 5e, Dark Souls is probably the last thing you can think that would go with 5e, right?
Absolutely. Dark Souls is a hardcore game. I'm not a big fan of it, and I cannot see how the fifth edition engine is going to operate Dark Souls. It just completely misses the point, I think.
Yeah, I mean, love it or hate it, I think we can all agree that the fifth engine sort of embraces a very almost over-the-top superhero-ish Gonzo style. I mean, the free healing, the free spells,
The rest reset, the spell slot reset if you're a warlock, it is the power. It is, if you want a power fantasy game, play fifth edition.
Yeah, it is a power fantasy. I mean, we could argue whether it is or is not D&D. There are, both sides to that story. As I said in my vlog earlier today, I don't think it is D&D because D&D has a certain sort of iconic imagery associated with it. And 5e doesn't really embrace that imagery anymore, which is, fine. There are definitely some things that 5e does better than others. So we're going to explore that. We're going to explore how it is that some games can say they are 5e D&D as opposed to just saying, like, this one is going to use the 5e as opposed to just D&D. We were going to be joined by Crafty Matt Craft, and he had some suggestions for us to go over, but sadly he had to deal with a family emergency. So it's just the two of us.
All right. It's okay.
So our big Legend of the Flame Princess fan and me, the big superhero role-playing game fan, are going to try and guide who's ever listening through the strange, weird world of third parties. So which you had some you wanted to start with, right?
So I actually have a couple, and I was watching your vlog earlier today, and I kind of did some more research on stuff, more third party stuff in my free time. But
I got a whole bunch of stuff we can look at.
Okay, good.
I don't know how to put it up on the screen, but
well, actually, you can do the share your screen function if you kind of hover right below where. Well, let me exit because I'm on full screen right now. Where it says, has the mute, start cam, mic, share. The share screen function, and you can literally share your desktop.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
Share screen. Here we go. Yes. We will do that when we go to the links.
Absolutely. So the big one that I wanted to, I backed, granted, I am a Lamentations of the Flame Princess fan, super fan, but I started in 5e. That was kind of my bread and butter for a long time. And I came across this game called, it's Grim Hollow, and it's from Ghostfire Games, and they're based out in Australia. And I kind of like the Grim Dawn, or Grim setting. We've talked about this in the past. And it was everything I wanted. It was like this kind of pseudo-Victorian werewolf vampire setting where you kind of harvest the monster parts and you can graft it on your skin. It really reminded me of, do you remember the Savage World Rippers?
Yes.
That's what it reminded me of. And I'm not a Savage Worlds fan. I just can't, I don't know that system well enough as I know like a D20 system. And I was like, this is going to be perfect. And I did the Kickstarter, and I actually got my bundle in not too long ago, and I haven't really played it because I don't play 5th edition anymore.
But yeah, how does something that's obviously completely antithesis to 5e D&D. So
Right.
how does it work?
So, from my understanding, the player characters get to, whenever they encounter a denizen of the dark, basically, they can. There's roles that they created, like a mechanic to harvesting monster parts, and they get a certain amount of monster parts. They can start, like I said, grafting into their skin, or kind of setting a path to, like, I'm going to be a werewolf, or I'm going to be a vampire death dealer, from kind of like it creates this, or even like a lich area, becoming a lich, and the parts to harvesting those things to become this creature of darkness that's fighting for good.
Cool. All right. Have you had a chance to look at the mechanics? Sorry, I had some technical difficulty there for a second.
I briefly skimmed over it, and then I've quickly shelved it. I need to get back into it, just so I can kind of formulate that and explain more. But again, I'm a settings person, and that setting like took a hold of me. I just don't see how.
Without obviously, yeah, I mean, you'd have to horribly mutilate the rules of 5e to make it Grim Dawn. The same with the Dark Souls tabletop role-playing game. I've got their thing here. I'm going to try and share the screen.
Okay.
Can you see that?
No, sir, I cannot. You have to add it to the stream. So like it on the StreamYard, it'll have like my icon, your icon, and then it should have like a grayed out like at the studio, and you would add that computer screen to the screen.
Probably should have played with this before.
That's okay. Hey, there it is. Okay, now minimize that screen. There you go. You got it.
All right, so this is what I want to look at. Can you see this?
Yes, sir. I sure can. I'm going to blow it up on my end. All right, go for it.
So here is the rundown of the Dark Souls tabletop role-playing game that we've seen so far. Dark Souls tabletop RPG will use D&D's 5e and promises tactical combat. Steamforged Games has confirmed their surprise and teasing a Dark Souls RPG announcement is for 5e. Steamforged's previous tabletop titles include Animal Adventures, which use D&D systems. So will Dark Souls. Let's see. Do we have anything actually about the system? So
I've never heard of Animal Adventures.
Say you wanted to capture the spark of the video game and deliver a role-playing experience that would also give players the real Dark Souls feel, whether rolling a unique character with one of the Bestoken classes, creeping through the ruins, or encountering familiar characters, or engaging in tactical combat. So yeah, it doesn't really tell us, sadly, enough about the system to really go into it. But obviously, Dark Souls is a very gritty, dark, hardcore. You're gonna, high death. How does that work with 5e? That's like the exact opposite of 5e.
Right, because you're basically I'm going to use a video game term, a bullet sponge in 5e. I mean, that's what you are. I mean, hit points. We have so many hit points in 5th edition. How's that going to translate with Dark Souls?
Okay. Yes. Yeah, they would have to change the rules.
Right.
But they still are using the 5e label. So there's obviously some questions. What allows somebody to use the 5e label? And we've got a list of a couple 5e things that Crafty Matt Craft wanted us to look at. The first one he said was DM Dave, and I'll put all these links down below. DM Dave does a one thing every day for 5e, all third party, all fantasy. His Patreon is $7 a month, and for that you can get like 300 things a month of 5e D&D. We have
so it's kind of like a a monthly service per se, or
Yeah.
a daily service of. I get. Is it like adventures, or is it more?
It's all sorts of things. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. It's a compendium of some sort.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's dungeons, monsters, articles. If you're familiar with Dragon Magazine, it's similar to Dragon Magazine in that it gives you tons of content from a bunch of different people, all fantasy, and it is 5e related. And I will post the link. I already did, and all these links will be on the page when I go to.
Oh, I'm familiar with this guy. Sorry, it's Broadsword. I am. When I was DMing 5th edition only, I was subscribed to this.
So what do you say about DM Dave?
So I had a tendency of buying a lot of like 5e product, whether that's licensed or unlicensed product, and I got so overwhelmed with the minutia of that product that once I found Lamentations, I really turned that product off.
All right, so you're nothing positive or negative other than the broadsword stuff is pretty good, and he does a lot of stuff every month for 5e.
Yeah, if you're new to DMing, and I'm still really new to DMing, like it's a great little bundle of content to just kind of explore and deep dive.
And it's third party, so it's not sponsored. Wizards of the Coast has no share in it whatsoever.
Right. He's just making his money, and that's A-okay in my book, man.
Yeah. Okay. So how is he allowed to do this? So this is where we come to the nitty gritty, because we're also going to talk about things like some of the third party settings like Midgard, Fate Forge, Orobos, Sky Pirates of Abraxas, which is, of course, the one Margaret and Weiss and Tracy Hickman are doing. That is in the top 5 of most anticipated products for 2022. That's 5e. Midgard is 5e. Fate Forge is 5e. Orobos, is written by the people who did Diablo.
Cool.
Is also 5e. We have, of course, Matt Colville's Stronghold and Followers, the second largest Kickstarter ever in the history of Kickstarter for, RPG product until Avatar kicked it to the curb.
Yeah.
That was that made almost $7 million. We have Monte Cook has done Numenera for 5e.
He's hasn't he done a Cthulhu mythos for 5e as well? Or is that Steve Jackson?
Monte Cook?
Yeah, I knew someone did something for 5e Cthulhu mythos.
I think Perrin has, but I haven't.
Gotcha. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No problem. And then, of course, we've got the EN Publishing Level Up Advanced 5e, which is pretty much trying to be to 5e what Pathfinder was to D&D. So they can use the name 5e, but you will see if you look on it, there's no Wizards of the Coast D&D branding. So how does this work? So we're going to go to the best source I can find, which is the DM's Guild. Then I'll share that screen. There we go. Can you see that?
Not yet. Make sure you just pop it into the StreamYard.
There you go.
There it is.
All right. So getting started on the Dungeon Masters Guild. So this is how you can tell the difference between something that is got that 5e label as opposed to that have that 5e D&D label as opposed to just saying D20. And this scales all back, of course, to the OGL.
Right.
So in order to have the official 5e D&D license, you have to follow everything on the OGL, which means you've got to have all these questions. You've got to have a certain format. As you can see, Wizards of the Coast gets a small percentage if you use the OGL. We have the product identity. You've got to put the stickers in right place. I did something on DM's Guild about a year ago just to see if I could get it. And it took almost 2 months to jump through all their hoops because you had to follow all the OGL stuff, and it had to be system neutral. It had to have the official DM's Guild and the official 5e placed specifically. You can't use copyright art, so you either have to use art that you've created yourself, or you have to use the art that the DM's Guild provides for a small fee. It has to include all the legal text: Dungeons and Dragons, D&D, Wizards of the Coast, Forgotten Realms, Ravenloft, etc., 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 are all product names of Wizards of the Coast, and their respective logos are trademarked of Wizards of the Coast. This work contains material that is copyrighted by Wizards of the Coast and our other authors. Such materials is used with permission under the community content agreement. All other original material or work is copyright whatever year you copyright it with DM's Guild. And if you use that content, you have to credit DM's Guild on the page, and you have to credit Wizards of the Coast on that page, and you have to include what I just read on the first page, along as in addition to the DM's Guild and the 5e labels and art and official art and everything. And if you jump through all these hoops, you can be a 5e D&D product. Where are we? Oh, stop sharing.
Right, but they also get a cut of the product.
Yes,
Gotcha.
That's the whole. Yes, if you want that, if you want to say your product is 5e D&D approved, Wizards of the Coast approved, like if you want to publish it on the DM's Guild or drive-through or anything like that, then yes. Or if you want to see it on D&D Beyond or Wizards of the Coast gets a small thing, but
that raises a question that I have. So I used D&D Beyond for quite some time, and if you have access, if you pay the monthly membership like $5, you get the master access or whatever, and you can create races, subclasses, monsters, X, Y, and Z. I guess, and I didn't necessarily read all the legal terms, but I guess that actually is product of Wizards of the Coast. If you think about it.
Well, I mean, if you like homebrew something and say it's homebrew, no. And if you try to publish it or make other people say so other people can say use it, then yeah, Wizards of the Coast might get involved. It's Carl. I have played 5e, and it can be deadly and fine with a page of house rules. And I play. So yeah, you got a house rules to make 5e deadly. Which brings us back to the second category, which is what a lot of these fall under, including what are we talking about? Soul, whatever it is. What are we talking about?
Dark Souls.
Dark Souls, yes, and Level Up 5e and Numenera and all these other ones. How do they slip through the grasp of Wizards of the Coast? And of course, I will put links to all these, including the ones I mentioned: Midgard, Fate Forge, Ouroboros, and we have Sky Pirates from Abraxas, which is also going to be 5e.
I'm actually interested in that just because I like Hickman.
I'm surprised that they went with 5e. If you would figure after the way Wizards of the Coast screwed them over, they would. I mean, they have a game system that they've used for their products in the past. So I'm not quite sure why they went with 5e, other than, of course, they get that, Wizards of the Coast money, and that was part of the lawsuit, but that's neither here nor there.
Also, wait, isn't Jason, not Jason, something, Maganello. There it is. Joe Menaggio.
The best looking man in D&D.
I think Wizards is kind of, I mean, I get it, and it's business, you want to make money. So like, it could possibly be that's how he got into, or they chose the 5e line, because that guy's an iconic, a new icon of, I'm going to call it the new edition of D&D. It's not even, I don't even call it D&D.
Yeah, we can discuss the my philosophy of which one is, how which one rates in the D&D things. So for those who aren't familiar with the OGL and what happened in the third edition wars, and the beginning of the 4th edition wars. Basically, there's this thing out there called the open game license that says if you follow a certain format, you can say your product is compatible with 5e. Or there wasn't 5e in the past, it was 3e. And it doesn't have to be Dungeons and Dragons, but it has to use certain things. And if you use those certain things, strength, dex, con, intelligence, wisdom, charisma, armor class, the sort of the things you're used to seeing on the character record sheets, and you don't change them too much. You can change them a little, but that base, as long as it falls within that sort of D20 SRD framework and follows the D20 system reference docket, you obviously have a lot of leeway, because obviously Dark Souls is going to have variations on the rules that aren't in D&D. You can call yourself 5e. So for anybody who's wondering, that is a very idiot version of how that works.
Yeah, it was a response to kind of the Pathfinders came into that point of making.
Yeah, it definitely started with Pathfinder.
Making it a better game, or some would say better,
Mm-hmm.
of the D20 system. That honestly is a great system. I love the D20 system. It's easy. It's fun.
Yeah. 5e is a great system. It's just not, it's not D&D.
Right.
It is definitely other things. I think a lot of people would be happy if Wizards of the Coast just stopped calling it Dungeons and Dragons. But as long as they can milk that money, obviously they're never going to stop calling it D&D.
Right, because it goes back to that it's an icon of the generations, from the 70s, the 80s to present. The
name 5e has certain iconic imagery associated with it that is in our collective unconscious. So if you say I'm playing D&D, people see something in their head, even if they don't actually know what D&D is.
Right.
In order to make like a Dark Souls D&D and say it's 5e, you're gonna have to change 5e to fit Dark Souls, and you're gonna have to alter the rules. And in altering the rules, you can still fall under the 5e label as long as you follow these certain guidelines that are written in the OGL.
Correct.
Yes. So I have the link for the Dark Souls if anybody wants to sign up for their mailing list and find out all the information. I'll post that down below too. So moving on to the second part. I mean, obviously this isn't going to be a long 6-hour one, because I want to start. I think it's getting to the point where we need to stop talking about 5e.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all tired of it, really.
Yeah. The politics has sort of ruined the fun of the game, which is sad, because like I said earlier today, when 5e came out in 2014, and when I first saw it, it felt kind of like going back home for about 20 minutes.
Yeah,
There's a lot of stuff in 5e I like. There's a few things I don't like. I mean, advantage and disadvantage is brilliant. Giving this the +2 base proficiency at the start is nice. It got rid of a lot of cumbersome mechanics that Pathfinder abused. So yeah, it's a great system, but it wasn't D&D. It was something else. I mean, if D&D is Conan the Barbarian, Excalibur, Lady Hawk, 5e is Hawk the Slayer, Sword and the Sorcerer, Thundar the Barbarian. It's much more high impact, almost superheroish. So 5e doesn't work as D&D. It works as high power heroic fantasy.
Yeah.
So so the question is, in my mind, what does 5e work for? There's obviously certain genres that 5e is perfect for, and others that it's not. And dark, grim, bloody, you could die at any time, body horror Dark Souls just doesn't do it. I mean,
Yeah,
you
it
have
doesn't
to
fit the
change
bill.
it so much that at that point it's going to stop being 5e, and then you're just sort of just milking the OGL because you want that extra $10 that saying it's 5e is going to make you.
And in a business sense, that makes the most logical sense. I know, like Legend of the Five Rings is porting over to a 5e system now.
Oh, that would be sad. I'm sure that was.
And it's just to make money. I mean, that's what it boils down to. But what 5e does work, and I'm glad you just highlighted that, Carl. Yes, it's a high magic, high fantasy setting.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Eberron. Like, I like it. I like the idea.
Yeah.
5e is perfect for it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, if we had my diagram of what 5e and 4e and 3e was, you know, we have D&D before Wizards of the Coast. We have D&D after the Wizards of the Coast. Wizards of the Coast first edition D&D, of course, is 3.5.
Yes.
That was the first time you saw them make major changes just simply because they thought they could make money. I mean, there was like 3 editing mistakes, and they made you rebuy everything.
We're getting to that point, and I think it happens with pretty much every edition since Wizard has taken over of the bloat, right?
Yeah. 5e is definitely hitting the bloat. I mean, everything. The Mordenkainen's is a perfect example. You know, we had 3.5, then we had 4, and let's face it, 4 was not D&D, and 4th was the beginning of the we're not making D&D anymore. We're just using the name.
Right.
And obviously, 4th caused a lot of hostility.
Right. 4 was a great, massive multiplayer role-playing game.
Yeah.
That's what 4th was, on a table.
They were trying to milk,
wow,
World of Warcraft and EverQuest and video games and trying to, and 4th is, I like 4th. There's tons of stuff I like in 4th. Which is weird because people always get mad at me when I say I like this 4th, but then I defend myself and saying, well, okay, I like 4th, but 4th isn't D&D. What 4th should have been is Eberron, the role-playing game.
Right.
Yeah, you know,
I think high-powered fantasy role-playing game.
Yeah, they should have, you know, when they were going to discontinue 3rd and they said they were working on a new system, they should have released 4th as Eberron, had Eberron on the market for like a year, and then the end of the year go, hey, what do you people think of this system?
Right.
Do you like it? Do you think we should make D&D? And if people went, yeah, great. If people went, nah, then they might have done something else. But they did 4th, and then 4th failed, and then they abandoned 4th, and then I brought it to 5th, and then we have 5th before Tasha's and 5th after Tasha's.
Let's talk about that, because that I think is a defining point in
they're literally 2 separate games, and Mordenkainen's is a perfect example of how now they're 2 separate games.
Right. When I was running 5th edition, of course at the very beginning I was like, whatever, play whatever, da 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 da. And as I kind of started like honing and building a world, I was like, core rule book only, you know. Because after, you know, I think the core rule book, the player's hand guide, amazing. Even all the way up to, I would say Xanthar's Guide to Everything, and that's when I kind of stopped, kind of supporting the line of 5th edition. But then when Tasha's hit, like what it did is it changed things. It was already changing, but it just Tasha was the tipping point. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, that's where all this other stuff started too, with the whole isms and the politics. And I mean, it's not that it wasn't there before, but, you know.
It was injected. It was more injected in.
Yeah.
Tasha's at the time.
Tasha's changed it. And everything that's come out after Tasha's is definitely sort of reflecting the direction they want to go, which brings us, of course, to Mordenkainen's.
Right.
Hi, Gail Ariamo. Thank you for joining us. Now we have 2 people.
Woohoo! We're doing really good, guys.
So you have hardcore 5e from Frank.
Yeah, I like it. I never actually got the chance to run it, but reading through the rules, I mean, if you're not familiar with Frank or Runehammer, that's the creator of Index Card RPG, and he created 5th edition hardcore.
Yeah.
And what he did was kind of limit some stuff. He changed some things around, and it was for the better. It did have a callback to almost like a BX style of D&D.
How so?
Well, so he eliminated a lot of the classes. I mean, they're of course optional, but the main core thing that he was hitting on was the fighter, the cleric, the magic user, but they had to use wizard, right? And the rogue or the specialist or the thief, however you want to call it. And that was like the bread and butter. What he did with the cleric reminded me of kind of a lamentation style cleric or a BX style cleric where they necessarily don't get that spell slot at level 1. Like that was cool.
Since we're talking about grim style, grim and gritty hardcore 5e, how does he make it hardcore? What is it about it? I mean, if this is the building blocks for doing a Dark Souls, how do you make 5e bloody and gross and body horror and have that same level of threat that we would have, say, like a BX or whatever, or just is it just lower hit points? Is it higher save?
So he limited the hit points, I believe. Let me actually open up the PDF on my computer here real quick. Actually,
I don't have it.
I can send it to you. 5e. So what he did is he changed how hit points were done. I believe there it is, open it up. I believe you don't add your constitution modifier after a certain level. So whatever you get on that die roll, you get on that die roll for your hit points. The major big thing is he did the old school style of 3d6 down the line.
I love that.
Yeah. And I love it too because it allows you to play classes that maybe you would never normally play.
It's fun to play suboptimal characters.
Absolutely.
And then try and get them to survive. I know a lot of people, play you guys didn't role play in those all days, but I'm like, you tried role playing a character with 2 hit points. That's role playing.
Right. And in fact, I much rather play a character that is not good at something, right, than being an expert, because it just, I don't know.
You got to hit Aaron the Pendantic up for joining his AD&D game then.
Old Aaron. And the big thing is he uses a pure hit die, so roll class hit die once, even at level 1 with no modifiers.
Okay.
Hit dies are also replaced with some other stat systems. I'm kind of reading like a little bullet point style of things. Spell by level. There's no more spell slots unlock by character level. So if you want to cast that fireball, you better be the appropriate level to cast that fireball. And it's a roll to cast system, which I'm always a big fan of. I wish he would have included the corruption table on fumbling a spell, like in Dungeon Crawlers Classics or something. Like
yeah.
Because it makes magic more volatile. Like I like that.
More deadly.
And he the big thing is he talks about the theme, like really dipping your toes into like a grimdark setting, what that means, what kind of, I mean, obviously when we describe a dungeon of some sort, like just kind of using those sensory things, it's dank, it's dark, it's dirty, like kind of to paint those pictures a little bit more grimmer.
Yeah, grim Dark Souls, Darkest Dungeon style has an implied sense of survival, resource management, time is important, light is important, things you just don't think about in 5e. So
Yeah, I agree.
It's nice to see that so many of these 5e, third parties are trying to get away from what Wizards of the Coast has done. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that, which of course brings us back to the topic of our previous, where actual 5e players are saying, this is not what we want anymore.
And I want to see that more. I know you and I both know Chris from Underlevel. He's one of those players. I want to see. I want that population. Like I want to talk to them. Like,
I had a couple after we posted that. I had a couple others who said the same things. In fact, every 5e person I've spoken to has pretty much said the same thing. They're house ruling. They're changing. They're not following. I don't think Strixhaven's is not only considered the worst 5e product, it's the lowest selling ever, despite this one or two crazy fanboys. And Mordecai's is already receiving nothing but just negative.
Yeah, I think it's going to have to. That's a good question. I don't think we're going to see a 6th edition product for a little while.
Yeah, what are they going to do in 2024? 2024 being the 50th edition, we know they're doing something, and Mordecai's is supposed to be the first hint of what they're going to do. It makes sense to release a 6th edition, but it also makes sense for them not to.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
What they should probably do is drop the editions. Just say Dungeons and Dragons.
That's it.
Core rules.
Yeah.
That's it. There's no more editions. We're bringing the two families together, like you got the Hatfields of Magics and the McCoys of D&D. They're sitting across the table from each other, and Crawford's standing in the middle going, I want you guys to come to an agreement. You're all going to work together from now on. That was my really bad Godfather imitation. I apologize.
I thought that was beautiful,
Mr. Brando. So yeah, we know that's what Hasbro wanted. The previous CEO, before he passed away, he wanted Magic and D&D to coexist in the same multiverse, and it looks like the new CEO wants the same thing. He doesn't want any more of this Magic D&D arguing. He wants D&D to be Magic the Gathering to be D&D. So the thing that would make most sense is to just stop calling it 5th edition, stop calling it 6th edition. Just say whatever they put out, probably going to be, like a slipcase, like what they did with Mordecai's and Tasha's and Xanthers, new art, all these new weird backwards compatible rules. And I would say just call it D&D. Don't call it 6th. Don't call it 5.5. Just call it. No, I do not know a single person who has bought Strixhaven other than maybe J. Scott Garraby. That name I never thought I would say.
Don't speak of the Dark One. He'll just show up.
I can say I don't know about any other store. Obviously, my store here in Ventura is not a good example. But I can say that the copies of Strixhaven they got at my friendly local game store, that's S Games and Anime here in Ventura, haven't moved. They literally have not moved. They are in the exact same spot that the staff put them in when they came in the day of press. So then that's been what, almost 2 months, 3 months?
Strixhaven, I think it was, a couple. I think it was, it would be December-ish, I think, was when it was released, if I remember correctly. I don't know. I
would say, yes, Herb, Tasha's and everything Ash's Tasha's is D&D 5.1 or 5, and everything before is D&D 5, and whatever comes out in 2024 would just be D&D, the next generation, starring Patrick Stewart. Well, maybe not, but
Mr. Rubles has a question for you. He says, so OGGM, question for you, sir. Dragon Age RPG or Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition?
And how would I compare them, or which one would I play? I am familiar with the Fantasy Age. It was overly complicated in what it was trying to do. I saw when Will Wheaton did the live play. And there was a lot of stuff I liked and a lot of stuff I found a little too complicated. But I have heard really good things about what they're doing with Modern Age and the Expanse RPG. So I think the system is worth looking at. It's obviously slightly more it's somewhere between 5e D&D and the simplicity of 5e, and then the super complexity that Pathfinder Second Edition has sort of embraced with the multiple chunkiness. So if you want like something that's not as chunky as Pathfinder Second Edition, but slightly more chunky than D&D 5e, Dragon Age might be the way to go, or just get the Age system generic and use that one. I know they're going to be converting all the Freeport stuff to the Age system, and that's one of my favorite settings. I'm very excited about that. Is it no? I don't know if I can't say they're better. They're completely different systems trying to do the same thing. I don't even think it qualifies as a third-party 5e. Yay!
I still gotta get mine. They sent me a thing confirming my address, and then they knocked that out. But I do want to check out Pathfinder.
Anyone want to buy? Oh, I already have it, Herb. Otherwise, I would. I have the pocket edition of Pathfinder Second Edition. I like Starfinder better than Pathfinder Second Edition. I think what they did in Starfinder is what they should have carried over to Pathfinder Second Edition instead of changing it. So, like, Starfinder was like the transition from Pathfinder 1 to Pathfinder 2. And Starfinder's great. There's a lot of great ideas in Starfinder, but then they just sort of went, no, let's be super crunchy. That's what our players want.
Oh, so Starfinder was not as crunchy as Pathfinder?
No.
Interesting.
No.
You know, and you would think it would be more crunchier since it's a sci-fi game.
No, it wasn't.
That's cool. I'm gonna have to check that out now.
No, Herb, I would love to play Starfinder. I loved it. Sadly, the Starfinder game I was playing it ended. But it was a lot of fun. I was playing, there's a shape-shifting race, and I was playing one of the shapeshifters, and I just confused the hell out of every other player at the table because I would like do the thing where I walk in an elevator and walk out wearing a different face. And all the other players are like, wait, which one is him now? And so, yeah, it was a lot of fun. I may have abused the shape-shifting more than I was supposed to, but the DM never said no. So, but Starfinder's not it doesn't fall in the third party. Unlike, say, Level Up is doing a science fiction one called Level Up 5e Void Finder. So they are obviously jumping on that Starfinder Planescape thing that, before five Wizards of the Coast does, because we've got Starfinder, we've got these guys are doing Void Finder, we've got a couple other D&D in space that are coming out. Because I think everybody's expecting that the next big thing that Wizards of the Coast is going to do is going to be the multiverse.
I would just love for them to do Spelljammer, but that's just me.
I think it'll be Spelljammer meets meets Planescape meets the plane jumping from Magic. The Planeswalkers are such a big iconic part of Magic. I think that's probably what we're going to see. I don't know if they'll call it Planeswalker or Plane Jumper or Plane scape or Starscape, Spell Walker. But yeah, I think that'll be how they'll do it.
That would be I would like that. That would be cool. Yeah.
So obviously 5e doesn't work as a hardcore gritty death unless you change it.
And it requires a lot of changing and hacking the system. And at that point, it's like okay, we're using the foundation, but it's
Yeah,
not
we're using the D20. We're using dice you recognize. We're
right.
using, armor class and hit points that you recognize, but basically this is a completely different game. We're just getting to call it 5e because that gets us that
Yeah,
extra
just the money.
Yeah.
At that point, I would just say let's just play index card RPG because then it's just it's all easy at that point.
It's easier. It's backwards compatibling a game that doesn't fit in the 5e engine to make it fit when there obviously are genres that 5e's engine fits. Now, I think 5e would be a great engine for like a pulp action game, like an Indiana Jones style game.
Oh yeah, I could see that. I could see that.
I think 5e would work. I hear that there's a couple 5e superhero games that are excellent. Because obviously 5e already is a superhero game. I think 5e would really capture like a Deadlands style game. I think 5e captures anything that's really over the top.
I could see it really capturing like a Greek or Roman mythos kind of
Yeah,
game.
like if it
like an Ascended or Immortal kind of campaign of some sort.
No, 5e would be yes, 5e would be awesome for Gamma World.
But would it fit for Rifts?
Who holds the copyright to Gamma World? Because otherwise, I think Wizards of the Coast would have tried to milk that by now. But yeah, 5e would be great. You have the 5e mechanics, and then you have replace the spells with the mutations and psionics, and just add in the random weirdness of mutations and mutations going wrong, and you could use the spell surge table from sorcerers and just replace that with like mutant surge.
That would be kind of cool.
Yeah, I think
I would be a fan of that.
Yeah, I think what fantasy though does 5e embrace? Because it obviously isn't D&D.
Again, I think you answered that earlier. It's more like a Gonzo-esque, like this weird power fantasy where that could be inserted into X generic setting, right? As long as there's like an epic. Well, if you talk about like a like design or story wise, it's like epic. Like that's what I could think about 5e would be epic.
Yes, original Planescape tieflings who were closer to what is probably a Magic the Gathering planeswalker than the anime pixie dream girls with horns we have now. Yeah, well, yeah, I think nobody who actually likes D&D is playing 5e. I don't know who's playing 5e post Tasha's. I mean, whatever the thing is on TV now, that's I don't know what that is. I mean, Critical Role is Critical Role, the role-playing game.
Right.
And the one that G4 is doing, I don't even know what that is. Shadzar sent me a clip for the G4 one, Roll for Party or whatever it's called. The one that has Xavier Woods and God Save Us Frosk in it.
Oh no.
And oh geez, it's like what are you playing? What game is this? So yeah, I don't know who's playing 5e because all the 5e players are like, no, we don't want this. Stop it.
That's your jam.
Yet, but considering what a huge fan of Mike and Artisolian I am, if somebody were to run it, I would love to play it. I loved the original Cyberpunk 2020. I love the interlock system so much, that I ended up writing stuff for them, which, then we ended up writing the fusion system and then the silhouette system. So yeah, I'd love to play it. Sadly, I live in a 5e town, or it was a 5e town before the apocalypse. There were a lot of 5e games that were going on, but it was the same thing as, people are calling it 5e, but they're not playing 5e. They're playing third party and just saying they're playing 5e.
Well, that's how you get players. Like it boils like I live in a very pro 5e town as well, and I don't really go out to gaming stores anymore because I'm so sick of 5e. I'm sick of it.
Well, we have 3 gaming stores here. Only one was, well, briefly lifted its head out of the sand and said, we're going to do 5e, but then they got scared of Omicron, and now they're like, nope. The other 2 stores are like, come in. But they're not saying they're 5e centric. They're just like, we want people to come in and play. And in Camarillo, we've got another store, and they're just like, please come in and play. And Game Ogre over in Woodland Hills was doing Adventures League, but now they're like, just whatever game people want to play. Well, I haven't seen it, so I can't comment. I suppose I need to read it now.
I got so many books I have to read now after leaving the 5e and game systems that I have to read.
No, I have no contact with Dream Point 9 other than how Fusion eventually became the Silhouette system, but I was way out of the loop by then. I haven't talked with Mike Taylor in 15 years, so yeah, I have no contact with them. I'm sure they are going to retribate. I would love to see them, restart their stuff. It's the greatest RPG company that no one's ever heard of.
I'm not familiar with that company.
They've been making games consistently for 20 some odd years. But it's the game company that no one's ever heard of.
Wow. I'm gonna have to check their stuff out because I'm trying my hardest to get out of, and I'm trying my hardest to distance myself from 5th edition. I'm also really trying my hardest to kind of get out of just D20 systems,
Yeah, StreamPod 9, Heavy Gear, the Silhouette system. Yeah, here's the link if you want to check it out. I did a vlog about them years ago. And yeah, about how they're the greatest RPG company that no one's ever heard of. And if you go back in the day, you would go to like game stores anywhere, and you would always see the D&D stuff, the Pathfinder stuff, the Traveler stuff, the GURPS stuff, and then there'd always be this one weird little yellow thing stuffed in with everything else for Heavy Gear. And like, no matter where you went, you would find Heavy Gear stuff, or Jovian Chronicle stuff, but like people would never know what it was for. But it was everywhere forever. I mean, going back 20 years, I remember finding DreamPod 9 stuff.
This Jovian Wars sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely a very good anime mecha game. I would say
like a Gundam.
Good as or better than Mechton, or yeah, it's probably one of the best. Yeah. So I guess the solution to the question is how you get that juicy 5e and still be able to make a system that isn't 5e is for everybody who's wondering out there how all these companies are like making stuff. Again, they're saying, like Midgard and Fate Forge and Orobos, Dark Souls. We've got Numenera 5e. We've got Level Up 5e. They're all saying they're 5e, but they're not D&D. Yes. So I guess it made sense. Silhouettes comes out of Fusion. Yes. It was Interlock was Interlock into Champions New Millennium. Champions New Millennium became Fusion. Fusion was the Bubblegum Crisis role-playing game. I think we did a Dragon Ball role-playing game. There was one other that I can't remember. There was a lot of stuff online for Fusion, and then it just kind of went, never really went anywhere. It was trying too hard. It was too complicated. Silhouette's really good.
Oh, Mr. Rubli's asked a really good question. Is Betany a better system for beginners? Honestly, I think so. It's limiting. It limits the player's choices as far as classes and stuff like that. Well, depending on kind of which you run, but that's a tough question. Also, I'm coming from a biased perspective because I prefer Beckme or any retro clones over the current gen.
Yeah, I would not run. It's a hard thing. Is to like, I would love to run fantasy, but 5e is not gonna be what you want to play.
Right.
So many times you hear people, sort of with that disappointment in 5e or the expectation that 5e is going to be something it's not. And it's like, yeah, it's not. It's not D&D. It's superheroes, over the top, high power fantasy.
It is the end game of Marvel's end game or Avengers end game to just regular superheroes, which would be like a BX kind of thing. When I say, and I'm talking like non-meta superheroes.
Oh, now we're gonna start the BX versus Beckme argument.
And so
is Beckme multiple times more complicated than BX? Yeah, the evolution, got more crunchy and weird. I don't know. If people came and said, I want to learn how to play a game, this role-playing game, I don't even know if I'd start them with anything D&D related unless they specifically said, I want to play D&D, but I don't want to play 5e.
Yeah, I would keep it. I would
start with a much simpler system that can teach them the basics without worrying about the D&D trappings. Like Fiasco or Gumshoe or.
I would just do like a D6 system of some sort.
Yeah, Powered by the Apocalypse or Mutant. The Year Zero engine or something like that. Or Star Wars D6.
Hey, I got my copy of the 30th anniversary of it. I got to unbox and do a review.
Oh, Guillermo, how could you open these doors? No, because that's just going to be, everybody's going to argue that which version of D&D is the best D&D edition. 5e is the best. I'm sure there's even people who say 4e is the best. There might be one somewhere on an island.
I know Matt Colville's a big fan of that right now. I think he's running a 4e game right now.
Yeah. So the best D&D edition is whatever edition you find that is the most fun for you to run and the most fun for your players to play. That's the best. Yes, what I'm running at any given time is the best edition of D&D.
That's a great response, Herb.
Yeah. I know there's some people who say the D20 Star Wars was better, but no, the D6 Star Wars is Star Wars. No other game has captured that feel of Star Wars. You wouldn't have the expanded universe without D6
that game.
Because the D6 stuff that they introduced in the extra books became canon until Lucas said the expanded universe wasn't canon. But yeah, no other game, that captures that excitement, that the adrenaline that I played. There's just something about rolling 6, 7, 8, 10 D6 across the table and hoping for those pops and hoping for those max outs to get the explode. And then, of course, that ever-present threat of no matter how good you are, Darth Vader's better. You're never going to get that 15d6 in lightsaber. So, yeah, D6 Star Wars. Without a doubt. Yes. The one you're running at any given time, Guillermo, if it brings you pleasure and your players enjoy it, then yeah, don't listen to anything I say about 5e. If you've got a bunch of people who are playing 5e, 5.5, and they like Tasha's and Mordecai's and they're all having fun and they're not hurting anybody else, then nothing I say matters.
Right. At the end of the day, is like whatever game you're running, if it brings people to the table and those people come back to the table on a weekly or a monthly basis, then that's the best version of the game.
Exactly. Yeah. That's I can't say anything better. I know I keep repeating it. That seems to be my mantra this year, but there's so many people out there, right now who are saying we're playing wrong. And it's just like, no, stop.
Yeah, I fall into that category a couple of times where like, am I running this wrong? Am I doing this wrong?
No.
And then I started kind of observing like other playthroughs and everything. I was like, actually, no, I'm playing within my ability, and that's okay.
Yeah. Unless your players hold a revolt,
Right.
And kick you to the curb because they're not having fun, then yeah, you're the one you're running that they're having fun is the best, whether it be third party, whether it be fifth, whether it be Beck Me, whether it be My Little Pony, Chainsaw, Lesbians, I don't care.
Blades, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Troika, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's as long as your people are sitting around your table. And honestly, let's get to the real nitty gritty of it. Like the story of the adventure is actually kind of secondary. The first thing is sitting together, rolling dice, and laughing, or having a good time.
Oh well, I think if you wanted to embrace the most forgotten realms of all the settings, probably second it, maybe third, but really, I mean, the Forgotten Realms was second. First was Greyhawk. Second edition was the Forgotten Realms. Third was sort of the Realms. Fourth, kind of started becoming more generic. Fifth, they've only given the Forgotten Realms lip service.
Yeah, I would take a callback to all the old novels that were written in the Forgotten Realms settings and figure out what the system was that was in place at that point in time, and that would be your answer.
Yes, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah, AD&D, second edition, whatever you want to call it. If you wanted to capture the feeling of the Forgotten Realms, I mean, obviously I'm biased because I played a 15-year-long Forgotten Realms campaign using AD&D. But yeah, I think that captures it the best. I don't know if AD&D is the best to teach people, but I think you would. I think
you know what you could use though.
I would use the starter set. Ignore everything else. Just use the D&D starter set. The classes as written in the starter set. Don't use the player's handbook, and then set it in the Forgotten Realms. That's how I would do a Forgotten Realms campaign today, if I wanted to teach people.
Yeah, that would be a good way to go. I was also going to suggest getting the old school essentials and then plopping that into the Forgotten Realms setting.
Yeah, because that definitely is second edition.
Yeah, I just got my copies of that, and so when you look at a book, or at least for me, when I open a book, like if it gives me that sense of wonderment and whimsical, and I want to go on an adventure there, then that they did something right. And as soon as I popped open that old school essentials, I was like, oh my gosh, I want to run a fantasy game set in Faerun, and I never had any previous interest in that setting, because the only exposure I've had to Faerun would be through Baldur's Gate when I was a kiddo.
Yeah. So I'm posting a link to all the third-party settings that are currently in print. If any of these sound like something you want to explore, they are, of course, 5e compatible, but they are not 5e D&D games. Of course, obviously, number one being the Pony Finder. So yeah, look, I mean, there's, we've got lots of stuff on here: science fiction, fantasy, horror. A lot of people who are, taking the 5e system to, we've got like a Conan, we've got a Lovecraft, of course. We've got Zeitgeist. All these games where people are taking 5e in new and interesting ways, and sort of rebelling against this, the direction Wizards of the Coast is taking 5e. And this was going on for a while, because Midgard is pretty old. So yeah, 5e can do things just not D&D. If I were to use 5e for a system now, I would probably do pulp action, Lovecraft pulp action, Indiana Jones kind of thing, or maybe a low power superhero game. I think 4e would probably make a great low power superhero game. Yeah. So do you have anything you want to add, Rasputin, before we bring this to a close?
Actually I do. The big thing I want to add is enjoy your time gaming with people. If you're having that chance to game with them in person, enjoy it. I don't have that opportunity right now, so
yeah, I only get to play online. I'm running a game every Tuesdays. We're trying to get more people to come in. So if you're in Ventura and want to come play, Seth's Games and Anime is the only store that's got table space, and here in Ventura, unless you go out to Camarillo or Game Ogre. Yeah, and of course, all these links that I mentioned today will be posted when I post this online. Thank you, Rasputin, for joining me. I'm sorry, Crafty, you couldn't join us. I'm sure you would have added way more levels of intelligence than I did, or at least, with your radio voice, you would have sounded much better. But look, Shadzar, we went a whole hour with no ranting about anything. So, in your face, Shad, in your face.
We beat Shadzar. That's all that matters.
He said we couldn't go without ranting. Hey, Guillermo, if you ever want to talk about that kind of stuff offline, just send me a tell, or whatever they call it, a DM. We can get into more things. All right, so next month we'll be leaving the world of 5e and talking about other games because it's February, which is the month of love. So for next month's one fireside chat, we're going to talk about games that we absolutely love that aren't D&D, which means somebody can talk about Lamentations of the Flame Princess.
Who could that be?
I don't know. Maybe we can get Jim on to talk about it.
I would love. Hey, I will be happy to send him an email. I would love for him to come in and talk.
Yeah. All right, that's it. I'd talk more about the wind and allergies, and I'm only good for about an hour. Nobody wants to hear me talk for 7 hours.
We're not there yet.
Yeah, I'm not there. Maybe in a year from now. All these links will be posted when I post this online. If there's any of these topics you want to talk about more in depth, let me or Rasputin know, and we will gladly bring it up again because we're lonely and need things to talk about.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you again for being my co-host, Rasputin. It's always a pleasure talking to you, buddy.
Yes, I want to keep on doing it. This is great.
Yeah, we got to get a game or something, or Discord or something.
Ooh, yes. I want to play with that Owlbear radio. I want to get familiar with that system more.
I can open up an Owlbear and invite you when we get off. Stop streaming.
Okay, cool. Let's do it.
All right. Good evening, everybody, and we will see you soon.
Bye.
All right. Owl. I think I can post it in. I love Owlbear radio.
Yeah, when you did that, I was like, this is what I wanted. This is exactly what I want. I spent money on Foundry a long time ago, and I never used it because that's not what I wanted.
All right, I'm gonna send you this link. See if you can see this and use it.
Oh, I see it. I think we're still alive. I'm not sure.
No, I ended the broadcast.
Okay. Cool.
And if not, if anybody wants to jump on Owlbear Radio.
Yeah, we're going to have fun on Owlbear Radio.
All right. There you are. Are you Frog?
What? Where would I? Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, I'm Frog. How can I change that? That's cool.
I think you can see, you should see a pencil.
Yes.
And then, yes, change nickname.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I got to put on my Rasputin name.
So everything here, we're underneath the pencil. We have change, we have add, share audio. It has a timer, the settings, and then over here is all the fun stuff. You can see it's got little icons for every class. You just drag them over here, and you can make them larger or smaller. And since you're on, you can play with it too. It's not limited to me.
Oh, okay, okay. So I can drag. Well, let me
Yeah.
get a cool. Let me get a cool little. Let me get the bard. Bards are cool
Yeah.
if played correctly.
See, there you go. You have
That's
the
awesome.
same ability. Oh, am I still alive, Herb?
Well, join us on Albert Radio.
Well, okay, we're playing with Owlbear Radio. If anybody wants to come over and see how this works, I'm giving a really bad tutorial, I guess. I thought when you ended broadcasted you, but whatever. What do I know? It's bare bones, but yeah.
Now, does it have like let's say we were in a sunken temple? Could you draw like walls?
Yeah. Dro, is that you, Herb? I think it's Herb.
I believe so.
All right. So yeah, the paintbrush. And then,
Oh, okay. That's neat.
There you go.
That's cool. Is that like a fog of war kind of thing?
There, if you see, there's like a select map. There's a move tool. There's a select tool. There's fog of war, drawing tool, measure tool, pointer tool. I like this one. You've got a spell cast on you.
Oh, that's cool.
What's this one? Note tool. This one's a lot of fun.
Oh, neat.
Invisible.
Oh, cool.
And then if I want to make like an army, and then I just go over here. Where is this it? Ta-da! Oh, you're in trouble now.
Oh yeah, I'm okay. All right, all right. Now,
Yeah,
does it track the HP? Or are you still doing that on pen and paper?
Badam! Do you see that?
No. What did you do?
I brought up the dice tool.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! There's a dice tool.
Yeah, you should be able to see it.
Where would it be at?
Right under my name. See OGGM.
Oh yeah. Okay. Oh.
And then if you go to the screen, there's a little teeny thing right across from party. There's like a little teeny square.
Yes.
You click that.
Okay. Oh, I have a dice tray.
And at the bottom, there's what looks like a globe.
Yeah.
Hi, Herb. If you put a line through it, I can't see your rolls. If you don't put a line through it, I can.
So let me see if you could. Did you get this D20 roll?
You rolled a 6.
Oh, okay.
13.
Oh yeah. Okay, cool.
So that's how you do dice rolls, and then hit points. I think it's still at the point where you have to keep track of your own.
That's fine. But that's neat.
The notepad. Probably you could do that.
Yeah, you could do like a little
hit
HP.
Points.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, now I've got 12 hit points. Oh, Herb just hit me with a magic missile. Now I've got 5 hit points.
Good job, Herb.
And then you can change the sizes. So if I want this to, and they, oh, yeah.
Now,
and then there's an eraser, so I can just go and get rid of all my mistakes.
That's awesome. This is exactly what I want.
Yeah.
This would be great for like a tiny D6 game.
I think, yeah. I mean, as long as you don't want a lot of details.
Yeah, no, it's more. Honestly, it's more like I used to be a mini person. I used to paint minis. I have a 3D printer that I got. I was in it. I drank the D&D Kool-Aid per se.
No, you can use a 3D printer for anything.
I know. I use it for other things now. Okay. So you can change the background map. That was my next question.
Yeah, that's cool. Where's the background map? It's the first one, I think. Yeah, and you can upload your own.
Oh my gosh! So you could literally upload a dungeon, and it's there.
Yeah. If you didn't want to build one.
And this is a completely free.
It is completely free. That's why it's probably so bare bones.
No, this is wonderful. Oh, and you can edit a token as well.
Yeah, you can add your own tokens, edit them. So yeah, you could build. I mean, you could build a very bare bones dungeon like I'm doing.
See, but that's cool. I would love to. That would be so fun to do a little game.
And then, oh look, there's a monster in here. Yeah, I'm sure there's better ways to do it because you can import a map. Because I know Aaron did a map that we imported onto Owlbear that was much better than this. But yeah, I highly recommend it. It's free. I think you can donate to the guy's Patreon. Erase all content and reset. Blink. And there we go. Start over from scratch.
This is wonderful. Master joined the party. This is awesome.
And why am I Mastiff now?
I don't know. But
it gives you random names.
Gotcha. But this is neat. This is exactly what I wanted. I'm gonna actually start using this and just throw it up on my my big screen when I have in-person play. Yeah. And just be like, all right, so here's where we're at. Where do you want to move, kind of thing.
Yeah, and since you can import maps,
yeah,
if you have an actual real map and didn't want to do crappy OGGM art.
Let me see if I got a map on here for us real quick.
I don't know. Let me see. Yeah, import map. Let me see.
Let me just go. Let me
any art that I could import.
I'm gonna go to Facebook, not Facebook, Google real quick. I want to type in another dungeon map. Let's see what pops up. Oh my gosh. Could you imagine keep on the Borderlands like this? This would be awesome.
That'd be awesome. Well, there's a picture that was on my screen, and I just added it.
Oh, okay. No, actually, you could make that a dungeon.
Here's the entrance. Yep. So yeah, obviously that wasn't very hard.
That's awesome. That is awesome. This is exactly what I wanted, man.
Hi, Herb. Thanks for joining us. We love you, Herb. Yeah. So yeah. Select map. Let's get rid of that. There we go.
That's cool. I like the old battle map. That's exactly what I have on my kitchen table right now.
I don't know if you can stack them though. No, you can't stack them. So you can only have one map at a time.
Boy, you could theoretically be like, this is the on the road to a keep.
Yeah.
And
you'd have to change the slides every time in a new screen.
That's fine. I mean that's easy though. Like it's not. I think it's just erase all. Bam. Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Yeah, and the fact that anybody who's on can mess with it. So if you want to be an asshole and go, no, Aaron, my dragon shows up, or no, Rasputin, 16 angels show up to stop you because I have control too.
Yeah, I would literally just I would run it for our small Discord group that we have. That's
it's
cool.
perfect for a small group. Yeah. As long as you're not expecting the bells and whistles of Roll20.
See, I never liked Roll20. I thought it was very clunky. It wasn't.
Yeah, it is horrible.
It wasn't intuitive. This is super intuitive. I prefer intuitive over bells and whistles.
What tree? What? Mount? Oh, and there's a trash can too. I don't know if you saw that. If you drag all the way to the bottom.
Oh, cool.
What's this?
I didn't mean to draw that.
I found a new command. Hide token, lock token, character, prop. Oh, maybe you can change the layers after all. All right, I'll have to play with it some more. All right, I'm gonna let everybody go. Thank you, Herb. Thank you,
Rasputin. Thank you, Herb. Thank you.
Now maybe we can play on Albo Radio sometime.
Yeah.
And I'll talk to you all later. Goodbye, Rasputin. Thank you, man.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. Bye bye.